Very good. Okay. I'd like to introduce Ra from England, whose mother has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Ra.
Oh, hi there.
Could you tell us your mother's story?
Of course I can. Going back in 2008, my mum was having symptoms of her eye becoming blurry, her legs becoming very weak, and at the time we were just putting it to the back of our heads, thinking, oh no, you're just not well, or it's nothing really. For a long time, since I can remember being a kid, she's always suffered from severe headaches which would knock her out for at least 2 to 3 days. But nobody ever made a big thing about it. But this eye issue actually became a bit severe because obviously she couldn't see from the eye. Following on, we went to the GP who referred her on to the eye clinic. However, they then did further tests, CT scans, brain scans, MRIs, and came to the conclusion that after a while, it was in 2008, I remember it being about May, and then must have been early 2009 when they actually had a diagnosis saying it's potentially multiple sclerosis. But they didn't actually justify that yet because they wanted to conduct a lumbar puncture first of all. And apart from conducting the lumbar puncture, they did confirm that the symptoms that she's going through is due to it being MS. And after that, that's as much as I can remember from the diagnostic phase.
Mm-hmm. So what happened once she was diagnosed?
Oh, once she was diagnosed, it's like the world came crashing down because what happened is I spoke to the neurologist to ask what can you do to help us, and the simple fact is we're not sure, we can't do much. What we can do though is provide you with antidepressants. And this is actually somebody that's very energetic, very active. When you're with her or when you see her, you wouldn't actually think there's anything wrong with her. However, obviously.
Hang on, that's the postman. I knew it. Why couldn't he have come a bit sooner? Hello?
Hi there.
Right, okay. So if we could just do that piece again. You were saying about, let's take it from your mum being diagnosed.
Oh, okay. So obviously she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And then the stage is I had no clue what MS was. You just put it to the back of your head, you hear about it, but you never think it could happen to somebody you know or somebody so close to you. Mm-hmm. And obviously did a bit of YouTube searching, and the last thing you want to do is actually see what's actually being showed because obviously it scares daylights out of you. Mm-hmm. Then it was going back to the neurologist to ask what can you do then, and the simple answer was we can't do nothing. We can provide you, however, with some antidepressants. And like I said, this is somebody that's very energetic. When you see her, you think there's nothing wrong with her. Yet somebody's trying to put her on antidepressants before there's even a problem yet. However, the pain started to get a bit worse through this phase, and we went back to the GP, who said, I can't do nothing, you'd have to go to the neurologist. And then the neurologist was referring her to these antidepressants, making them out that they're brilliant tablets and whatnot. And we were told that she has to take this because if she doesn't, her condition will get worse. And this, surprisingly, an antidepressant is actually meant to help the pain of MS, which is just absolute nonsense, as I actually learned throughout the next few years of my life. And that was the stage, and to be honest, I think at that stage it was a real eye-opener because you think, oh no, this is something serious. And the rate that she was deteriorating from the point of being diagnosed to being told this is what's going to happen to you, to being on these depressant tablets, was such a fine line between watching someone that's one day everything's perfect to the next day the world turning upside down. And that's from the stage of diagnostics to obviously.
And when was that? How long ago was it?
So this was going back in 2009 now.
Okay.
So it must have been probably I'd say June, July 2009. And that's when I just thought, there's nothing we can do here. It's really, what can you do? You just wish for the best, right? There's nothing. Clearly, everyone's saying they can't do nothing. There's not enough money to go into research. There's no medication or whatnot. And I just thought, oh no, we're in trouble here. But fortunately, it was from an article she read in a paper. So it was in the local newspaper where a lady who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis as well was on an American trial of a medication called low-dose naltrexone. Now, at the time, didn't make much of it, didn't know what it was or whatnot. But then I YouTubed LDN, and I've seen amazing results from people that were wheelchair-bound to actually walking again. And it was the miracle, described as a miracle drug for MS and other autoimmune diseases. And I was just intrigued by this, just thought, wow, it wasn't one or two people. There are a lot of people reviewing this. And the more you start researching it, you just think, this is amazing. Why does the neurologist have no idea that LDN even exists, or even actually tell you that, there is something on the market that you should actually, at your own risk, if you are willing to try it, you can. Coming further, the first thing I did was next day book an appointment with the neurologist to find out that he didn't know about it, but because they haven't got money to actually do further trials, he couldn't advise upon the medication. But surprisingly, 60% of his patients that have actually tried the drug have actually said they feel much better, and they've not seen him since. I just found that absolutely ridiculous, that somebody in a field that's meant to be looking after patients, making sure that actually their health actually gets better than deteriorate, is saying to me that 60 to 70% of his patients that have actually requested and been adamant on trying LDN have been able to get it prescribed and are feeling better, and they've not seen him since. But yet he doesn't tell anybody about it, and he can't tell you where to get it from, and he can't even prescribe it for you. So it was really like talking to a brick wall, because he was adamant these antidepressants were much better than LDN, even though the proof's in the pudding, and yet he was not willing to prescribe it at all. However, it wasn't the neurologist that was of any use. To be honest, we haven't been back to see him since, and he's the last person I would want to see. To be honest, my own personal opinion, please, this is my own opinion, somebody to be earning such money in such a field and has a duty towards the health of people, it should be their responsibility to actually even tell you what medication and what research is actually ongoing. The first question I asked the neurologist, is what research is actually going on in a pipeline in the field of multiple sclerosis? His exact words to me were actually, there isn't any, because we don't actually have any budgets for it. So my question was, what do you do all day long then? Because you're a neurologist that specializes in MS, yet you're saying to me there's no money, yet you're sitting here with a bow tie on, proudly telling me that there's nothing you can do for my mum. And literally at that point he says, I apologize, the best thing you can do is hope for the best, and we can keep reviewing this, we can review this again in 6 months' time, and hopefully there'll be something on the market. It was just, I just found absolute nonsense. And, you're trying to take the aggression away and just walk away, but it was just ridiculous. Following on a chat with my mum's MS nurse, she actually told me there was a doctor she knew who was based in Southampton that actually has MS, and that could prescribe this medication for us, LDN. It is a private medication, it's not available on the NHS. This is now, Linda, going early 2010. So this doctor prescribed the LDN for us for a couple of months, but wasn't able to prescribe it any longer because he has MS himself. But I think his MS progressed, but he did recommend us to another doctor. And I must say, the doctor we met, I can tell you he's from Swansea in Wales. I'm sure you've heard of him as well. He's probably the best doctor I've ever spoken to. And he's now prescribing the LDN as well as helping us with this nutrient therapy regime pattern as well, which assesses what, as an MS patient, should be taking, the vitamins they should be taking. And throughout the last 2 years, she's been on low-dose naltrexone, and I can tell you, she's full of energy. She has no symptoms. Yes, there is symptoms of her eye still has issues, but all the symptoms you see on somebody going from diagnostics of MS a year ago and then watching them in 3 years and deterioration, I can tell you LDN has actually saved my mum from actually being bedbound.
Mm-hmm. I understand your frustration. It's very difficult, isn't it, to be the person with the condition, but it affects the family as well. So I can understand how you're feeling, wanting to find a solution for your mum and being told, actually, there isn't a solution. It's hard to understand, isn't it?
It is, and the funny thing is, Linda, it's actually LDN cost next to nothing to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you contact the pharmaceutical companies, and I actually did manage to speak to one who actually told me the reason that we don't produce LDN on the NHS is because it makes us no money.
Mm.
And to be told that, yet people that are heroin addicts are being given Naltrexone in 50 milligram doses for free of charge.
Mm.
Now, how can that be justified?
But actually, any doctor can prescribe LDN and on the NHS if they think it's a therapeutic benefit. They do it what they call off-label on a named patient basis.
Yes, and I've actually banged my head against the walls for my GP. He's still not having any of it.
No, but that's the thing. You have to have your GP willing to prescribe it in the first place. So
every time we go to the GP, every 2 months, I've been banging my head against the wall to him. He doesn't want to, his exact words are, he doesn't want to risk his medical license.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason he's not willing to prescribe it.
So how would you describe your mother's health now?
She's not the same person she was before, obviously being diagnosed with MS.
Mm-hmm.
However, even today, if somebody, without anybody knowing she has MS, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yes.
Also, she's walking fine. She's got more energy than anyone in the family. And there's no major issues at this stage, I think people with MS should understand and appreciate the fact that vitamin D and all other nutrients like zinc, EPA are key facts, and they should be taking that because LDN is obviously the driving force of helping with the MS, but there are other things that we should be taking at the same time to help slow down the progression or stop the progression.
Mm-hmm.
And that her condition at the moment, touch wood, is absolutely brilliant, and there's no issues with her at all, and that's due to the LDN. And I can tell you from somebody that actually watched her for 2 years without LDN to 2 years with LDN, and the drastic difference. And she says herself she can't live without LDN because she's tried it with. I actually ran out. I actually forgot to actually order some more, and because it comes from New York, you can appreciate the postage issues we have, mm-hmm. and can take a bit longer than. So you have to order it quite a bit in advance before you actually end of your doses. We were out for at least a couple of days, and she was in bed without it. Mm-hmm. So you can clearly tell that without LDN, she's nothing.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your mother's story with us. I do appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you for your time.
There. How was that? Oh, that's fantastic, wasn't it?